Hello, GTS retail partners, and welcome to another vendor spotlight. I'm Scott Bohr, your host for today. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Space Penguin Inc., which is a new vendor for GTS Distribution, one we've just added. They are an independent publisher of this title here, Forbidden Psalm, which is a 28 millimeter Mork Borg compatible miniatures game, which is really interesting, as well as a number of expansions for this. For Mothership First Edition, which is a new release as well. And then games like Troika, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Mutant Crawl Classics, and even Fifth Edition. They're also known for their two unique or other independent games apart from Forbidden Psalm is Daisy Chainsaw, which is a new release for them, and Liminal Horror, which is a little bit older, but it has a new edition, the Investigators Edition. If you're unfamiliar with that title, it's a street level horror survival game. So some really interesting stuff coming out of them. So I will turn things over to Jarrett Crader to talk about Space Penguin Inc.'s catalog and what will be available through GTS, as well as some upcoming projects. This. So yeah, anytime, go for it.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Jarrett Crader, and I am co-owner with my wonderful partner Debbie Deaver in Space Penguin Inc. As you can tell, this is our cat, Itty Bitty, the Space Penguin kitty. A lot of folks are like, "Your name's Space Penguin Inc., but it's a cat." As I just explained to Scott before we jumped on board and went live here. Itty Bitty was our elderly diabetic kitty. She passed away a few months before we opened our doors last year, and we are lucky enough to be friends with Doug Kovacs. And Doug had stayed at our place once and had drawn Itty Bitty as part of his daily cat series. And when we opened up and we were looking for a logo and a name, it just all kind of fell into place. And Doug was really awesome and gracious and has allowed us to use and manipulate. I know that's a big thing for a lot of artists. His amazing art of Itty Bitty. And we are small press games publishers. Thus far, we have around 46 SKUs total between what we sell into distribution and what we sell direct on our shop. We have a lot of smaller handmade stuff that was kind of brought aboard early on, and then we've gradually shifted to more of a not super more of a mass market situation, but we're definitely aiming our guns at distribution and getting more stuff into stores, because that's where this whole thing started for me way back in 1982, going to Le Bon Hobby in Bonne Terre, Missouri, a little town that most people have never heard of. And one of the first things I ever bought for myself was TSR's Vampire with this amazing, amazing, amazing Errol Otis cover. That'll all come into play at the end when I talk about fun future plans. But yeah, I've been playing games and doing playing games mostly AD&D and then BX since '82. Played a lot of TMNT and Rifts in high school. Spent many years playing board games. Debbie and I play a lot of board games, and we've got some board games coming up in the future too. What else? About 10 years ago, I started getting active in the indie scene on Google Plus and started working on editing. And since then, I have edited or helped write or design, and I've even done some really bad art. For close to 500 published books, zines, blog posts, card games, RPGs, board games, you name it. I love that I get to play and make play things for a living, and I am lucky to have a super awesome partner, Debbie, who might hear in the other room, she's packing orders, and we're getting ready to do a large fulfillment for some friends of ours. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, that's quite a great intro into the industry. I agree with you that working in an industry where we create fun things for people to enjoy and add some interest and spark to their lives is a really great place to be working. So I'm with you on that.
Absolutely.
All right, let's jump into the catalog and take a look at what's coming available through Space Penguin or through GTS from Space Penguin, I should say. I guess it's what.
All right. All right. I'm gonna scroll down. And we'll talk about our tent pole, our big one, Forbidden Psalm. Forbidden Psalm is a 28 millimeter skirmish minis game. It is miniatures agnostic, so you can bring whatever minis you want to the table. You can bring whatever terrain you want to the table. There's no requirements to purchase anything specifically, which makes it great for kit bashers and skirmish games. It makes it a great entryway for maybe folks who have just looked over and seen all those guys having all that great fun with all those skirmish games, but they're like, how do I get into it? And FP is written from a very much narrative perspective. So yeah, there are a lot of rules and there are a lot of technical bits to it, but the main gist of it is you can take or leave any of those things. Forbidden Psalm itself began life from the mind of Will Rahman as a Mork Borg hack, and it uses the Mork Borg core stats for your character builds, your warband builds. Most of the main Forbidden Psalm line deals in a fantasy realm, in a grimdark to an extent, but it's always very tongue-in-cheek fantasy realm. And each of the larger books are self-contained, so they'll have the Forbidden Psalm chassis underneath, but tweaked a little bit, and we're going to get into those as we go through them. First up here is Forbidden Psalm, the End Times edition. Now, some of you probably have previously carried Forbidden Psalm and the sequel to Forbidden Psalm, In the Footsteps of the Mad Wizard. And what we've done with Forbidden Psalm End Times is combined both of those. We've sent it through two editors between myself and our editor extraordinaire, Roz Leahy, and really tightened up the chassis. I've worked with Will for 3+ years. I came on board with In the Footsteps of the Mad Wizard, and we've done The Last War and Cyborg and Dread Knights, which will come up later. So we've took everything that we learned over 3 years and put these two books together and really made them sing. As you can see, $50 SRP for the hardcover. So these are A5 hardcovers. These are smaller books than what a lot of your skirmish gamers are used to handling, but they're really nice and easy. I personally use the soft covers myself when we play here in the warehouse space. Because I really, 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 really enjoy being able to bend and mark up and beat my books. I love the hardcovers for the shelf, but I really like the soft covers. It's a slightly lower entry point, and it just really, you can pick up a couple of them and get you and another player going right away. Another really, really, really great thing about Forbidden Psalm is there are solo rules in every book and in every zine. Every single one of the scenarios that we put out has rules for how you would play in a versus setting, how you play solo, and how you play in a co-op setting, because we really want folks to be able to play these games as often as they possibly can. And sometimes it's hard to even just scrounge up one other person who wants to go to versus. We've even also expanded to 3 and 4 player rules. A lot of times they're just minor tweaks but it's just enough to know that they're there. Also on this page, we have the Forbidden Psalm Warband book, because what better to go with the core rule book than a nice little notebook. It's printed on uncoated paper. It is also A5. It is sized to match the books themselves. And inside are your warband sheets. So you can write down each of your 5 characters, and then system specific if it's normal. I say normal Forbidden Psalm, but if it's normal or vanilla Forbidden Psalm, which isn't vanilla by any means, but if it's Forbidden Psalm, you will have your warband sheet, and you will have the area for your room at the Hogshead Inn where you can do your upgrades to help your warband get through. We are going towards making a warband book like situation, or a cult roster situation, which is for the new Endless Horrors book that's crowdfunding right now. We're moving towards making one of these companion accessory booklets available for each of the main ones in this line, because it's a nice little add-on. We price them at $13 because lucky 13. Nice, easy to slide into a backpack, and you can keep track. And it has multiple sections for warband, so it's not just limited to one warband. Say you have a partner you're playing with, you can have, this is my group for partner A, and this is my group for solo, or this is my group for a big co-op situation with 3 or 4 players.
Excellent. It's noted, that it's compatible with Mork Borg as well. Does that mean that you can draw creatures and characters and monsters from all the different Mork Borg hacks that are out there into Forbidden Psalm, and then also take your Forbidden Psalm warband or characters out into like a Mork Borg RPG adventure?
Absolutely, 100%. In each of the larger books, we have a full conversion guide for down to how you swap out money. So like resources in the last war, or shillings in Dread Knights, and how they work with silver in Mork Borg. All of the core stats, that Mork Borg open license is super awesome. And we are lucky enough to be able to use the core stats for all of that. So it's really, really, really simple. And we even have the armor is the one that really comes up a lot. Like, how do you do armor? And so we have a full conversion guide in all of them, and you can go back and forth and forward and backwards, and you can mix it all up together. All of the scenarios have an RPG element to them. So even if your players aren't, if say you're running Mork Borg as a GM, and your players come from a D&D 4E background, and they really love that tactical combat, that's when you're like, okay, guys, we're going to break out Forbidden Psalm. And that's when you switch over to a full-on battle mat, a 24 by 24 inch board on the table, and moving your inches and your squares and stuff like that. And so it just flows really easily if your table prefers a more tactical approach.
That's great flexibility to have, for sure.
Absolutely. Next up is the Collection of Death and Cloth Goblins. Collection of Death is a collection of zines and scenarios that were previously published. They are all collected. They are primarily for Forbidden Psalm, in the sense that they were all written with FP core in mind. That'll make itself more relevant here in just a second, I promise. It is so a lot of indie collectors will have already picked up all of those individual zines, but what we did to make this better, because that's what you do, so much of how I view us as a publisher and our industry as a whole is influenced by a lifelong being a comic book collector. And one of the best ways to get folks to pick up a trade paperback is to pick up is add a little bit of stuff in the back. I don't know if anybody reads Brubaker and Phillips stuff, but they always have a reason to pick up the single issues because they always have these really great text pieces in the back about whatever noir or crime or whatever is relevant to that particular series. And they then don't often collect those in the trade paperback versions, but they'll collect them in the deluxe editions. And so what we've done is kind of flip that a little bit, taken all the cool stuff that we've done before, of course, re-edited it, updated it to match all of the current listings on the rules, and then we've even added some extra new content. This one has an endless dungeon generator. So say you're bored on a Saturday and you just want to keep going and just see how long your warband can go, you can roll yourself up a fresh warband and just go dungeon crawling if you didn't want to actually do a pitched battle in a scenario. And one of the really neat things about FP is the FP community is full of kit bashers and really great painters. So we have a lot of illustrations throughout of actual miniatures and terrain drawn from the Forbidden Psalm communities. And so we stuck extra pages of all of that stuff into the Collection of Death. It is actually known as the Collection of Death Volume 1 because this year, and we'll talk about some of those in just a second, I have worked with Will and we have released a monthly zine, which again, we'll cover here in just a second. And we're planning on collecting that into Collection of Death Volume 2. And again, each one of the collected ones will have a little bit of extra. So even if you have your diehard fans that are popping into the shop every month to get the new Forbidden Psalm as soon as it comes out, which is what we hope. Like, is it happening yet? I think it's happening. It's happening on our web store, so we're hoping it's happening in shops. But we want people to have a reason to pick up these collections as they go. So we're always adding in a little bit extra. That brings us to Cloth Goblins. Cloth Goblins is a collaboration between Will, Forbidden Psalm creator, and Statuesque Miniatures. And it's covers these cute little goblin miniatures as they try to defend their forests. What we've done here is made a small 28-page zine version of the core Forbidden Psalm rules specifically tailored to these miniatures. So these miniature sculpts have cool little shields or little spears and whatnot. And Will has gone through and actually during character creation and warband creation, your goblins get like rocks or slings or spears, kind of what a goblin would have. And we've built, we've worked the chassis of the rules down to like 3 or 4 pages. So it's one of those where you can take stuff out of Mork Borg and put stuff back into Mork Borg. You can also take stuff out of your favorite properties and put stuff back into it. And what we've done with Cloth Goblins is, and I think we've been pretty successful with it, is show how we can get that rules chassis down to just a few pages. So this is a great intro for someone wanting maybe less grim dark and wanting something a little bit cuter, lavishly illustrated throughout with really great photographs of the statuesque miniatures painted by statuesque miniatures. So it's a nice entry point into the world of Forbidden Psalm. If someone's a little hesitant to spend $30 on the soft cover, maybe they'll pick this up. These work well as stocking stuffers because they're just like something a little bit extra to stick in there. It's a complete game in 28 pages, but then it might just get that person going on to the next thing. Next up, Dread Knights. Dread Knights is near and dear to my heart. This is one of our flagship titles on launch. We have what Will has done with this one has made turn of the century, and by turn of the century he means 1800s into 1900s. gothic horror. So where Forbidden Psalm comes from a grim, dark, like almost like wasteland, very dark fantasy. Dread Knights comes from that Gaslight era of, vampires and werewolves and Jack the Ripper and stuff like that. It has a tweak on the warbands. All of the warband members are members of a guild, and then we have detailed rules for what the guilds offer. Um, it's priced a little bit less than the FP Core, just another little gateway to get you all into playing this. Again, same thing, solo rules, compatible with Mork Borg. I mean, heck, it's probably compatible with most simple system RPGs if you really get down to it. And it has a lot of um it's like the classic movie monsters. We've got ghosts, we've got several different kinds of vampires, we've got several different kinds of werewolves in there. Each one of these books, these bigger books, comes with between 11 and 22 scenarios in it. And FP Core comes with a way to build your own scenario. Dread Knights comes with essentially, if you play all of these scenarios in a row, you're playing out this really great thing where your players, your characters, your little miniatures are hunting uh, all of these things that go bump in the night.
Yeah, that's great.
A Dead Festival 3 is kind of standalone for the current time, but we'll be getting backmasked. So this is one of the zines, and it was our fall offering for last year. Every year for October, we do a Dead Festival, the next one in the series. And Dead Festival 3 is support for The Last War. The Last War is coming out again in a new collected improved edition from us in the coming months. But ADF 3 features, like all of our Dead Festivals, very much horror film inspired minis. So in this one, you're going to be able to meet Dr. Herbert West. You're also going to meet some guy with nails in his head and a puzzle box. It's all fair use, right? It's all transformative. But no, we really love horror films, and it's always a great challenge because Will comes up with one or two scenarios. He lets me pick a random movie that I want to do a scenario, and then he lets the community pick and vote on a scenario that they want, and then he works all of those scenarios into a scenario for your skirmish minis, so you can play essentially your favorite movies with whatever setting. A Dead Festival 3 is compatible with Forbidden Psalm, compatible with Mork Borg, but it was primarily written with The Last War in mind. The Last War is our World War One / Weird War One Weird War edition of Forbidden Psalm. It was previously published by Exalted Funeral. That's phased out, and we're coming back here in the next month or so with the next version of The Last War, which will carry some extra improved bits and a new editing pass, tightening up those rules because as skirmish gamers, we know how skirmish gamers are. What does that mean? Those sorts of questions. So ADF 3 is definitely in the vein of The Last War, but it can be used with Forbidden Psalm. It can be used, as it is turn of the century, it can be used with Dread Knights. It can be used with Cloth Goblins, because who wouldn't want to put some little cute goblins up against the Reanimator, right?
Exactly. Who wouldn't? Yeah, excited to hear that Last War is coming back. I'm looking forward to
Yep.
solicitation on that one.
Yep. We are getting ready to we're offering that as an add-on for our current Kickstarter that's out. And then as soon as that goes, that will be available in your hands as well.
Awesome.
The next two are a set. I spoke a couple minutes ago about transformative use. Some of you all might heard of a game called Blood Bowl. Some of you might have heard of a game called Blood Bowl Sevens. Mork Boll is Will's riff on Mork Boll Sevens on skirmish rugby. It's a little bit bigger than Cloth Goblins, but it's, roughly half or three-fifths the size of one of the larger books. It is a soft cover zine, so it's meant to be packed around and played and quick. It covers, it's the full Forbidden Psalm rules, again, baked down to a 1v1 skirmish rugby match played on an 11 by 22 pitch. I think I just got that right. I don't know. I made a pitch when we were playtesting this one. I actually made a pitch, and I have it in the other room. And Debbie and I, we do get back to it. We have a league going. We've also, and part of our monthly line, we've done Mork Boll 2. They think it's all over. Which includes more scenarios. More pitches and more referees. So there aren't scenarios in Mork Boll, but there are more pitches, so more fields to play on and more referees, because who doesn't want to play a soccer match versus a basketball referee? We've even included an NFL gridiron field on there. And season 2 also has a really great solo mode where you play against the fictional Dawn Blight United. I'm a big soccer fan. Will is not. It's kind of funny. But we made up our own fictional rugby/soccer team to play. So season 2, again, it's part of our series of monthlies, nice little bits where you can sprinkle a little bit extra in. Same thing with all the Forbidden Psalm titles. All of it's usable in Forbidden Psalm. So you could take a weapon from Mork Boll and you can use that version of the glass bottle, the broken bottle, or the Molotov cocktail, or the flaming football, or the flaming football. You couldn't see my foot. I kicked with one foot, right? And I threw with the other. You can use any of those weapons and items. You can use referees as monsters in your normal game of Forbidden Psalm. You can, again, same thing, slide all of this over to work with Mork Borg.
Yeah, having played some of those other sports fantasy games, I'm really interested in trying that one out. That one is not one I've gotten to the table yet.
Nice. I'm interested to see what you do for a pitch. I made mine out of green scrubbies and silver sharpies. It cost a bit in some materials made, but it's really fun, and it's a lot easier to cart around to conventions and to get to bring to play with people than a full-on 24 by 24 board with terrain and everything. If you want to show off, like we took it with us to QuestCon Orlando last year. And had a great time. All right. The next few we'll go through a little bit quicker. These are parts of our monthly series. Starting off at the beginning of this year, well, it would have been in December of last year. I challenged Will. I said, Will, can we please do a monthly issue? Let's get one out every single month and let's see what happens. And Will, being the mad genius that he is, put the pencil to the paper and started getting them down. What better way to start off the year with the cold and the frozen? So we have Frozen Psalms, which is references to a certain movie that drives parents crazy. I don't know. I don't have children, so I'm blissfully unaware of that particular film, but I've heard that song. So Frozen Psalms is our January. Beware the Ides of March is our March. This would actually work better if I had this set up as spreads, because then I wouldn't have to flip back and forth. For February was our Forbidden Love themed one, and then Eastbrindo's Spirit Night was our May issue. So each one of these 16 pages, these are nice, small, compact. They're only $10, and each one has 3 to 5 new scenarios for Forbidden Psalm, or again, usable with Cloth Goblins, usable with Mork Boll, usable with Mork Borg. Solo rules again inside every single one of them. And this is just like a nice little way. You pick up 3 or 4 of these and you have them on the shelf, and then someone comes by and they pick up Forbidden Psalm, and then they see, oh, wow, this is for Forbidden Psalm too. And then, a little bit of value add. They can grab and have another entire month's worth of scenarios and play sessions with their friends or solo. Each one themed after generally the month that it's in. January being Frozen, March being Beware the Ides of March. There's chariot races in that one. Really, really, really excited about that one. Playtesting the chariot races was great because we broke the chariot races in about the first 5 minutes by trying to corner a chariot. And it made us harken back to our lessons from Car Wars, which is, again, one of the greatest games ever. One of my favorites from when I was a kid. So we had to work in all these things
Thank you
about
for
angles
spending
and
your
stuff like
time with
that.
us today.
Again, it's
We
not
really
super
appreciate
overly
everything
complicated,
that
but
our
it was just
retailers
funny
bring
to
to the
like take
table,
all these
and
design
we want to
lessons
make sure
from,
that we are
games
providing
of our youth
the
and
most
really make them
opportunity,
work. So we've got
the best
chariots
products, as well as the greatest
in
opportunity for
Beware
you
the
to
Ides of
succeed.
March. We've
With that
got
in mind,
donkeys,
like
we've
and
got
subscribe so you don't
potions,
miss
we've
any of
got
the future
Cupid
content.
inside
And
Forbidden
if you
Love.
have some suggestions, you have
Eastbrindo's
recommendations or
Spirit
ideas that
Night.
you want to share with us, please go
Will,
ahead and
the
reach out to
creator,
us through the
is
comments.
Welsh, and
We do read them, and
part
then we'll
of
get back to you as well.
Will's
So reach out,
learning
say
and
hello.
understanding
Thank you again
of
for your time.
his own
Until
culture
next time, we'll see you soon.
and Wales and where he's from. He's been leaning into folk horror and folk tales and stuff like that. So Eastbrindo's Spirit Night covers all things May and all things May Day, and all things Straw Man and stuff like that.
No.
So yeah, a really nice, again, each one of these, they're relatively inexpensive. You get them up on the shelf and people pick up one, and we try to offer different covers and different flavors for what matches the month, or just kind of what we feel like will kind of fit in there. Each one is themed together. Usually if there are 5 scenarios in a zine, they'll all follow one another, but any scenario can be played in any order. And then we've got 2 more. We've got the June issue, 7 Deadly Sins. This was I know I say was, it's July 11th, and I'm like, was. 7 Deadly Sins what is a collaboration between Westphalia Miniatures. If y'all don't know Westphalia Miniatures, look up Westphalia Miniatures for some of the most neatest, greatest sculpts out there. And it covers these 5 sculpts of these gluttonous, monstrous creatures with forks and knives and spoons that want to eat you. So that was our June release. And then the one that comes out that goes live, released to us at retail next Wednesday, and is available in the catalog, is We Are Dust. And that's where we pit our war bands from Forbidden Psalm against the Chads down at the beach. It's one of those leaning into the meme culture a little bit. There are also there's some sandworms, inspired by a certain book or movie or something. I don't know. But yeah, each one of these themed after the month that it's in, and kind of leaning into, at least in the northern hemisphere, right? Leaning into the weather a little bit in each one of them.
Yes, I think I know what sandworms you may be thinking of.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. And there might be one hiding. No, you can't see it; it's out of range. But I too got one of those popcorn buckets. I love that popcorn buckets. And then we've got one more in the Forbidden Psalm realm. This one is actually not written by Will. This is written by a gent named Tyler Welch and designed by our good pal Eric Hayhill. Most Muscular Minis is a riff on my friend Mark Conway's all fighters D&D hack called Meatheads. And in Meatheads, there are no wizards, there are no thieves, there are no clerics. It's just all fighters all the time. And Tyler was so stoked he's a regular Forbidden Psalm player and so stoked about Meatheads that he wrote a cross-compatible book for Forbidden Psalm for Meatheads called Most Muscular Minis. It too is like Cloth Goblins. It's a nice little half price essentially version of the book zine. It's got the rules compacted down to just a few pages and then a bunch of scenarios, but everything in it is very specific to what happens with the world of Meatheads. There's a gem called Golds that you're supposed to find, and you're supposed to find the Book of Flex and things like that. There might even be a little bit of wrestling. So I'm looking forward to challenging Tyler to write Muscular Miniatures 2 next year and to do an all wrestling supplement.
There you go. Yes. Surely that's a part of the Mork Borg world.
I think so. If it's not, it will be, and if it already is, it will be again.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now we're going to shift gears. Another thing that we do, aside from Forbidden Psalm's our big one, and then we'll also cover Liminal Horror here in a second. But as I might have mentioned earlier, I am editor-in-chief on the Mothership sci-fi horror RPG line from Tuesday Night Games. I am lucky enough to have been there since almost ground zero, when Sean was putting pen to paper on the full version of the first player survival guide, and all through Dead Planet and Gradient Descent and A Pound of Flesh and the big old Mothership Kickstarter and future stuff. So, and one of the great things, again, about indie RPGs and where we come from are open game license and open licenses as far as third-party content. Forbidden Psalm comes from the Mork Borg license. Resonant and VR Dead come from the Mothership open game license. And Resonant has a funny story because there is a book in the Mothership box set called Another Bug Hunt, which is a bug hunt. Resonant is also a bug hunt, but it's a slightly different kind of bug. This one deals with sound. This one, larger than most of the zines that we've talked about thus far. It's a full-on planet adventure for your Mothership 1E characters. And I know that Mothership 1E boxes are starting to get out there into stores. I know that I got my deluxe set the other day as part of the creation team. So those should be getting out there pretty soon. And what better way to celebrate a new box set than to celebrate a random module to go with it. So Resonant, again, location based. It's a hex crawl across the planet with some really good underground in-depth cave exploring leading up to the ultimate reveal, and I won't go into what that is. VR Dead gets a special mention today because it just got nominated for Best Monster for the 2024 ENnie Awards. Which, by the way, I don't know how quickly these go up, Scott, but if anybody's watching these before the voting goes up for the ENnies, vote for VR Dead for Best Monster, please. VR Dead is created by Daniel Hallinan, who's also part of the team at Tuesday Night Games and a good bud. And It is a VR trapped situation. It's really tricky with Mothership modules because you don't want to give too much of away just in case people are playing them. But I know that in the text down here it says 16 pages, actually a 32 page. It was originally pitched as a 16-page zine. And I guess I'm all talking about how I'm an editor, and apparently I just noticed an editorial mistake in my own catalog. I'll fix that. It is a 32-page zine. It is full color throughout. And it's I'm really excited that in our first year we got a nomination. We got 2 nominations. There's one more coming up too. But I really think that just the concept of VR and with Oculus and everything else going on and AI and everything, the fact that the virtual reality monster got nominated for best monster was just icing on the cake. I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah, you got your finger on the pulse. You're hitting on the things that people are concerned about. So
I hope so. We have 2 other Mothership modules. These were part of our launch line, and they're in heavy rotation. Distress Signals is a collection of 5 ships. Essentially, these are really, really handy for when your players, maybe you're missing somebody, or maybe your players want to fast forward, or your players need a job, and they're in between some of the larger modules that come out that are in the Mothership milieu. They're kind of fetch quests. You can drop a Mayday signal into a place. Each one of these has a detailed schematic of the ship and gets 2 to 4 pages explaining what goes on there and what the players will find inside. Adrift is a slightly larger module. It is a full-on fetch quest that actually will eventually lead into 9 other mini quests. There's a bit of time travel, and there are 9 different named locations that are loosely worked out with encounters each for the warden. And eventually, if things hold upright, that book, Adrift, will get full-on turned into 9 other books to be eventually collected into a big old pretty box set, detailing each one of the subfloors / subrooms inside the ELU 9.
interesting. That should be an interesting one. So that's a developing scenario or set of scenarios.
Yeah, and each one of them, and again, nothing to stop any warden from running it and spinning off each one of the sections that's there. Like the ship itself is fully detailed, and each one of the rooms is complementary to the ship itself. But then eventually, when the other 9 sections come out, they will be all, you'll be able to run Adrift first and then run each of those sections if the characters survive. And if anybody's played Mothership out there, character death happens a lot.
Yeah.
So right. All right. Next up, we have Liminal Horror, the Investigators Edition, and The Bloom. Liminal Horror, a super rules light stripped down system based on Into the Odd and Cairn, for playing modern investigative horror games. Everybody knows COC and digs that. And where LH takes off is in playing a modern setting where you less focused on being a member of one of the ABC groups and more on being your everyday person, like your librarian. So less X-Files, more Scooby-Doo, if that happens in team composition. Now, definitely not in content. It's very horror, very horrific. And as we noticed, some of our touchstones here, Junji Ito, John Carpenter, Silent Hill, Resident Evil, COC, Monster of the Week, Silent Legions. So, but it's all aimed at modern horror. And Liminal Horror was, again, previously available, and the Investigators Edition is the new, cleaned up, essentially what we're calling the core edition. We're calling it Investigators, but it functions as a core version. So these will be able to, these are evergreen. They're always going to stay in print, and they're mainly meant as your less expensive player's survival guide or player's handbook PHB sort of situation. We do have a deluxe Liminal Horror edition that will be heading to crowdfunding and general release later this year, early 2025. But LHI is always going to be available, and it's always going to be handy for when you decide you're going to run a new LH campaign and you want to have something to pick up quick, easy, cheaper than a big book, and that you can hand out to your players. The great thing about LHI is you can also run the entire game out of the stuff that's in Liminal Horror. We took a big lesson from Mothership, and you could run, and people were running and have been running Mothership games using just the stuff in the Zero Edition player survival guide for years. And that's what we want Liminal Horror Investigators to always be available, always be ready to read. It's a quick read. It's a slim 44 pages, half letter size, really easy to pick up and grok. And it just does what it says on the tin. It does Liminal Horror. And the Bloom is the second of our releases that got an ENnie nomination. It just got an ENnie nomination for Best Long Form Adventure, which blew my mind and blew Josh and Goblin's, the two authors' minds. We were just so excited, and just out of nowhere, as a first-year publisher, of course, you submit everything that you have into the ENnies, into every awards thing that you have, because you're trying to get your name out there.
Yeah.
And it just came out of nowhere. So the Bloom is the big touchstones on that one, as what if Twin Peaks had a The Last of Us episode. And if that doesn't sell people on it really quickly, I don't know what will. Definitely a lot of fungus action. Definitely a lot of weird surrealism going on. And the cover is actually styled like that. And we've had a couple of people send their zines back and be like, this cover is all crumpled. And we're like, no, that's the cover art. So lesson learned, maybe don't put crumpled textures on the cover art. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, super excited. So again, if anybody sees this and it's before the 2024 ENnies voting is up, please vote for us for Best Long Form Adventure. That would be super great to get that. We're going to be at the ceremony. I've previously worked on books that have won 10 ENnie Awards, and I'm so excited to be ours. Regardless of if we win or not, I'm just super excited that I will be the person in the audience going, woo, really loudly when they call our names for the nominees. So be even better if we win. So
yeah, it is awesome. Very exciting. And this will be out before the ENnies. This will be out.
Oh.
I'm going to get this out in a few days. So
okay, awesome. That's great. Yeah, because ENnies voting is live as of today. And we've got our newsletter popping out, saying thank you for that.
I sent the full list of all of the games that have been nominated that we carry as a company, and
awesome.
We're among them, and got all the links so that our whole sales team and everybody knows about it.
That is so good. Thank you. I'm so stoked for that. I'm just excited I'm excited to work with you and see how this goes. I'm super excited to meet you in person next month at Gen Con. I'm also super excited, as you can tell, to go to Gen Con. I'm sure you are too.
Yeah,
I love that show. We have one more currently in the Liminal Horror catalog, and it's actually a crossover between Liminal Horror and Triangle Agency. Triangle Agency is a forthcoming modern, weird, surreal, horror inspired RPG. They had a resounding Kickstarter, and with resounding Kickstarters comes more problems. But they're starting to get their ships moving, and their stuff is going to be coming out. But they laughed because they were like, wait, it's going to be the first Triangle Agency thing published before Triangle Agency gets out. And I'm like, yes, that's okay. That just means we'll sell more copies when Triangle Agency is out, which is great. But it's presented in not quite a flip book format, though. Although now that I think about it, we should have done a flip book format. But you can play as characters working for Liminal Horror, which again, Liminal Horror being more like Scooby-Doo type situation, where Triangle Agency is more like Alphabet, like FBI, CIA sort of characters. That one's moving pretty well right now, just on the back of Liminal Horror. So once Triangle Agency, which I'm hoping that we're going to get some copies of Triangle Agency once they get all their kinks worked out. We're going to carry that too, because we do carry the first thing published for it. So
Right.
And we'll hopefully be able to swing a little deal and get them consolidated up. The next big one is Seas of Sand. This is a big boy. This is a big book, 264 pages. Again, half letter size. We work in primarily smaller sizes. It's just what we've come to enjoy. Seas of Sand was written and created by Sam Sorensen. Sam Sorensen, Seas of Sand. It is primarily written with Dungeons and Dragons 5e in mind, but with all of the 5e aspects not really disappeared, but more just subsumed into the fiction. It's a living, breathing desert world, place for your characters to be stuck into. All kinds of procedures, all kinds of tables, all kinds of tables. I was there during the editing of this one, and the editor, Matthew Kay, is a good friend of mine. And there's, here we go. 36 kinds of fauna, 20 kinds of flora, and 20 kinds of phenomenon. So there's all kinds of just details and weirdness. Even if you don't end up running a straight up Seas of Sand campaign, this is just a great toolkit to have around for deserts, for ruins, for pyramids, for places like that. 60 SRP. It's a slightly bigger book, hardcover, and just super duper happy that Sam approached us. It's done, interiors are all black and white, which I know kind of does throw a lot of people off, but it's part of what we do here is we do things a little bit weirder and a little bit differently. And I really think it fits. I should have had all these handy on my desk so that I could have flipped through and shown the camera, but that's okay. PDFs of all these also are totally available. Just let us know. We'd more than happy to let folks have the gander on the inside of all of these things, just to see if it's something that'll fit for their customer base.
Right.
Very happy to do that. Excellent. All right. Next up, we've got a couple for my personal all-time favorite rule set DCC RPG. Well, one's for MCC RPG, but close enough to DCC RPG, right? I started playing DCC RPG in 2013. It was about a year old. And my friend Andy was running us through 4th edition D&D because 5e hadn't come out yet. And Andy was running a module for one of the Goodman 3.5 era modules, but he had adapted it up to 4e. And I saw this Goodman Games Dungeon Crawl Classics. I think it was number 35 or something like that. And I looked that up, and that's how I fell into the world of G plus. So I have to blame Joe Goodman for a lot of doing what I do. In a really good way. It's super fabulous. And so I've been playing DCC for going on 11 years now. I love that game to death. Prison of the Forsaken Bear God is written by Stella Condry, featuring art by Mark Conway. Stella also did all of the design on it. Presented in the same form factor as other DCC RPG modules and MCC RPG modules. So we're looking at 8.5 by 11 saddle stitched color covers, black and white interiors, maps galore, hex maps, hex fills, full on write-ups for werebears, double bears, bear owls, spider bears, fungal bears, bug bears, ghost bears. It has a lot to do with bears and with ghosts. And then At the Mutants of Madness is by World Fantasy Award-winning editor Forrest Aguirre. He also wrote another one that's coming up for us here in just a second. And it is a higher level module, so it's meant for 4th to 6th, 7th level PCs in MCC RPG. And it is a full-on hex crawl with random locations all through the Devillands up until you fight possibly one of the most intricate puzzles I've ever seen in a DCC or MCC module. And I'm lucky enough to have read most all of them and know most of the writers, the main writers for the lines. And like it is a puzzle that I think might be more complicated than some of Harley Stroh's puzzles. So very, very, very excited to see what people think of that one. We premiered that one back in March at GaryCon, and super, super excited to see more folks get it and really enjoy it. It's got a great cover by Brad McDevitt as well. Oh, let's see. And we've got just a couple of more, right? Yep, we've got just a couple of more. We've got Beyond the Silver Scream, also for Dungeon Crawl Classics. This was released years ago by Forrest in a self-print run. Imagine it's 1973 and you go to the theater with your friends. This is a 0 level funnel where the film itself, the screen comes alive and draws you in. This thing is full of street cred. Again, Forrest has won the World Fantasy Award for his editing work previously. It's a 0 level funnel, so aside from needing the Goodman Games DCC Quick Start, you should be able to have a game up and running in no time flat. Half letter size, a nice little pocket addition to your go bag. Color cover with some nice texturing on it, and then black and white interiors. And there's also a really cool patron called the Dimensional Dogs that I won't go too much into, other than they have ruined not one but 2 of my campaigns with their introduction. So if you're a judge who likes to use that sort of, who likes to try out random stuff in their DCC or in their MCC, definitely pick it up and then just watch your game just fall to pieces. It's great, like in the best way possible.
Yeah, the 0 level funnels are a lot of fun.
Oh, so good. One of the best things. I ran road crew games for Goodman Games for about 4 years. Weekly games at my FLGS back in Columbia, Missouri. Shout out to Valhalla's Gate. Love that shop. And yeah, running 0 level funnels, it just never gets old. I can run the same ones multiple times. So fun. There's a couple of them that I have memorized almost where I don't even need a map or reference anymore. I really just love, as you can tell, I really just love this game. I love DCC so much. If I had to pick one desert island book, it would be my copy of DCC RPG.
Excellent.
And then last up, we have a couple for Troika. Scott, do you have Troika? You picked that up from Exalted Funeral, right?
Yes, we do have access to it. Yes.
Yep. So it's from Malsonian Arts Council. They're based in London. I was previously project manager and one of the lead editors for Malsonian Arts Council. So Troika is a system that is near and dear to my heart. Garden of Corda takes place inside the heart of a giant dead giant. And it has character classes that can also be used as NPCs. It's color cover, color interiors, fully painted by the artist Cade Kreitz, and designed by Christian Kessler, who is actually the person who is responsible for the Numinous Edition design of Troika. And a lot of the Christian's a good pal of mine. Christian has done some work with information delivery and hierarchy behind the scenes. He's one of those guys, like, his tendrils are out there in all kinds of books just based on a lot of the decisions that he made when building out a few books. And so he's inspired like a couple of generations worth now of folks who would probably never even know his name unless I tell them. So, but just kind of there underneath everything. So that's Corda, and then Hodel Island takes on the wacky side of Troika. Hodel means hold on for dear life, and it's a send up of cryptocurrency and crypto bros and things like that it was a little more topical when it came out a couple of years, well, a year ago. Maybe we'll get a rebirth on it. I don't know. Sam Bankman-Fried, same, right? Don't remember his name. Went to jail, so maybe people don't want to play as a group of investigators trying to figure out what's going on this Bitcoin island. But 52 pages, color cover, black and white interiors. As you can see through a lot of our price points, we're keeping price points at like $10 and $15 for models, trying to keep things around that same area, trying to make these adventures affordable for when you want to just jump into and run a thing when you, as the GM or the judge or the warden or whatever, is really out of energy for the night or the day, but really wants to have something. That's one of the ethos behind a lot of the design of a lot of our books is compatibility and just being able to slot it right in and just have it for those backup situations. And that gets us to last but certainly not least, one of our newest heavy hitters, Daisy Chainsaw, magical girls, big ass weapons. I don't probably need to say much more than that. Oh, also it's spiral bound, so it looks like a Lisa Frank notebook. Full color throughout. Charlotte really did an amazing job. She's the designer and the artist and illustrator and layout. And the only thing that she didn't do was the editing on it. And which we hired Matthew K. As you can tell, there's a theme. We work with a lot of the same folks on all of our books. But Daisy Chainsaw came out last month and has been a splash. We've already sent it back to for a second printing, which is really super great for us as a small company, being able to reprint these zines and books and booklets and stuff like that. 30 SRP, it sells itself. It's I would say we might have needed to put an age range on it, maybe like 12 plus, because there is an F word in it. Oh no. But yeah, thus far reception's been great, and we've got some future support coming in the form of 2 modules coming out for that next year as well.
Great.
So
yeah, so you've got a really wide diversity of product, which I think is awesome, between your own publications like Daisy Chainsaw, Liminal Horror, and Forbidden Psalm, and then you've also got just stuff for Mork Borg, for Mothership, for Troika, for DCC and MCC, even 5e. So there's just a little something for any genre or any a lot of the more popular rule sets that are out there now. So I think you're really serving the market in that space, and then also keeping the price point down allows people to just pick it up at the cash wrap or pick it up off the shelf and say, I'll give this a try, and then they fall in love with that system, and they grow to love your games and come back for more. So for our retail folks, it's really a great opportunity to have low barrier to entry, and then a wide berth of different lines to carry as well.
So that's our big thing is getting people to play. As like, you can look around my office in here and you can see like all these cool neat things, and I like cool neat things, and I want to help bring more cool neat things in the world. And that means for us covering a lot of systems and covering a lot of different places, and covering all the bases. We've got, in the future, we've got the Cairn 2E boxed set. We've got a whole big full-on fantasy rule set, one of those linchpins that RPG publishers want to have, right? We've got that coming up, but we wanted to lead with what we knew and what we know is strong, and that's systems, DCC, Troika, Mothership, Liminal Horror, Forbidden Psalm, leading with those stuff that we create or that I've had a hand in creating from the get-go.
Yeah, you build, and you're also building trust with the market so that when you do come out with those larger books, people are like, oh, I know Space Penguin. I've played several other modules, love them, so I'll pick this up. It's a great way to build that relationship and reputation in the market.
Yeah.
So well done. Excellent. I'm really excited about having you guys on board.
I'm excited too, man. This is I'm super stoked. Like, this is we're growing in nice, I would say, leaps and bounds, but it's more like in controlled sprints.
Right.
And this is part of the controlled sprint, and this feels good. I did want to say one last thing before we go. If any folks, we will be at Gen Con. And if you see a lady, and I'm not sure what color her hair will be, but it'll probably be pink or blue. But if you see a lady in the Space Penguin dress, or a guy in the Space Penguin shirt, talk to us. Just say, hey, saw you on GTS. Like, just wanted to say hey. So we'll be at Gen Con. We'll also be at QuestCon Orlando, and we'll also be at PAX U. We don't typically booth, as boothing is an expensive situation. Taking it nice and slow. Eventually, someday we'll be boothing at some of the larger shows and stuff like that. But we go to shows because we like to hang out and meet cool people and talk to folks. And we get to have meetings with our distributors and with our creators and and our collaborators and stuff like that. So we go to these shows because we enjoy going to these shows too. And also we like playing Wingspan a lot. So gotta get that one in there.
Excellent. Yeah. No, Wingspan is actually one of our exclusive titles. So that's
I love it so much. We're sick about it here. We have all kinds of little wooden birds and plastic doodads and nests, and we're Stone Mayor champions. Like,
awesome.
We buy them as soon as it comes up. So
excellent. Well, I know our board game side will be happy to hear about that too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Cool. Jarrett, it's wonderful to meet you. I really appreciate you taking the time out to walk through the catalog and talk about the different products you've got. Like I said, I'm super excited about having you guys on board and moving forward. And I'm looking forward to our meeting at Gen Con too.
Absolutely. So, and we'll, just as a note to retailers, we will have monthly new releases. We will have things that go up like every single month. Like, I've got the next set of, I've got the July, we've got most of the next 18 months planned out as far as a lot of our stuff goes. And so as things get a little bit further, like, we're not just gonna put out a few things and then disappear or wait for them and hope. We're gonna keep putting out cool stuff because we like cool stuff.
thanks very much for taking your time today to talk about Space Penguin Inc. We do have their full catalog available for pre-order now. It'll go through the end of the month, and then we'll be getting them in as a upon receipt release. So as soon as it hits the warehouse, it can ship out to your stores. It's great product for, like I said, Mork Borg stores that do well with Mork Borg. This is a great casual system agnostic or miniatures agnostic RPG and miniatures game component. So it works with Mork Borg as well as with Forbidden Psalm as its own unique product. So some really great product coming from Space Penguin. I look forward to them as they grow and grow their catalog and reach as well. So thank you for being here. Like and subscribe so you're up to date on all of our current information, any videos that get posted as well. So we're doing a lot of that stuff here at GTS. Looking forward to serving you as best we can. If you have any questions or responses to the video, feel free to put them in the comment section, and we do read those and take a look at them. And until next time, we'll see you.